Even for a moment, jatu, at any time, tishtati, remains, a karma krit, without doing anything, karyate, he is caused to perform, he, indeed, avasya, automatically, karma, fruit of activities,
Gunai,
by the three modes of nature, Svabhavikai, which are produced by his own tendencies in previous lives, Bala, by force. Translation of Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Dr. Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Not a single living entity can remain unengaged even for a moment. One must act by his natural tendency, according to the three modes of material nature, because this natural tendency forcibly makes him work in a particular way. The Svabhavika, or one's natural tendency, is the most important factor in action. One's natural tendency is to serve because a living entity is an eternal servant of God. The living entity wants to serve, but because of his forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord, he serves under the modes of material nature and manufactures various modes of service, such as socialism, humanitarianism, and altruism. However, one should be enlightened in the tenets of Bhagavad Gita and accept the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that one give up all natural tendencies for material service under different names and take to the service of the Lord. One's original natural tendency is to act in Krishna consciousness because one's real nature is spiritual. The duty of a human being is to understand that since he is essentially spirit, he must abide by the spiritual tendency and not be carried away by material tendencies. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has therefore sung, Miche Mayara Vashe, Yaksha Beshe, Prakcha, Habu Dobu Bahai. My dear brothers, you are being carried away by the waves of material energy and are suffering in many miserable conditions. Sometimes you are drowning in the waves of material nature, and sometimes you are tossed like a swimmer struggling in the ocean. As confirmed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this tendency to be battered by the waves of Maya can be changed to one's original, natural tendency, which is spiritual, when the living entity comes to understand that he is eternally Krishnadas, a servant of God. Krishna. Jiva Krishnadas, A Vishwas, Korle Ta Ara Dukhanai. If instead of serving Maya under different names, one turns his service attitude towards the Supreme Lord, he is then safe, and there is no more difficulty. If one returns to his original natural tendency in the human form of life by understanding the perfect knowledge given by Krishna himself in the Vedic literature, one's life is successful. Gayana Gayana Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Mukum Karoti Vashala Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Guru Dīvāra Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In the third canto of the Bhagavatam, towards the end, Kapila Muni is instructing devotee, and he describes a child in the womb, the devotee child in the womb. The child is upside down in a very confined space. It's warm, humid. He's being bitten by all sorts of worms and insects in the womb. He can hardly breathe properly. It's an extremely uncomfortable position. 9 months, the child is in this situation. Over time, as he grows and develops, he becomes more and more sensitive to the uncomfortable nature of his condition. All he wants is to get out. So who remembers this situation? We're all in that situation, but we don't remember it. Because actually it's described that the experience of birth is not only very uncomfortable for the mother, but also very uncomfortable for the child. And the intensity of that experience makes a child forgetful. So similarly with death, generally for an individual, death is such a difficult, painful, extreme experience that we forget everything in the previous life. However, sometimes we see that there are some devotees who will remember their previous lives. For example, Bharat Maharaj, when he becomes a deer, remembers his previous life. He's an advanced devotee. For an advanced devotee, the experience of death is not so intense, not so uncomfortable. And therefore it's just moving from one body to another. He has this realization, this depth of understanding. So because death is not such an intense experience, they will still remember their previous experience, their previous life. And therefore Bharat Maharaj as a deer remembers his previous life and therefore refrains from engaging with material energy. So the child in the womb, the devotee child in the womb in this very intense environment prays, begs the Lord, please Krishna, get me out of here. Allow me freedom. When I come out, I will worship you. When I'm out of this situation, I promise you, I will be your devotee. I'm your servant. I will worship you. Please just get me out of this situation. So eventually, of course, Krishna obliges and the living entity comes out. At the moment he comes out, who does he see? Mummy, Daddy, Goo Gaga. And then everyone is so, mollycoddling, loving. Oh, so cute. Oh, so, his smile. Look at his stool and urine, so sweet. And in this way, the child begins to grow and grow this conception. I'm the center of attention. My enjoyment, my happiness, my satisfaction, everyone loves me. I'm the focus. And these are my parents. This is my country, my nationality, my language, my favorite food, my clothes, me, myself, and I. This conception begins to grow. This abhiman, this false ego, this false identity. And in this way, gradually, the living entity forgets about his promise. Forgets his promise to the Lord that I will be your devotee. I will worship you. I will be yours. So this is the standard path. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada came in order to allow us not to forget, to remind us. This is why Shukadeva Goswami, for 16 years, he remained in the womb of his mother, because he doesn't want to come out. Because material energy will attack. And it's very subtle. This isn't anything, okay, you can say material energy, illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, external activities, very gross and physical. But this is Maya, material energy, in a very subtle form. And it's just how we think. It's just about how we feel. Material energy seeps into the heart, seeps into the consciousness, and can ruin everything. So sometimes people, okay, what is Maya and what is Kali? So Kali is the general situation that we're in. In this material world, it's Kali Yuga, and therefore things are very degraded. So it's a very general pattern. It's a general situation, set of circumstances. We are in Kali Yuga. I remember once, devotees were talking about Kali Yuga, Kali Yuga, Kali Yuga. And then his son was Kadam Maharaj. He said, Kali Yuga? Baba, it's not Kali Yuga, this is Chaitanya Yuga. It's a different conception, right? Different way of looking at things. So, okay, anyway, this is, so there's Kali Yuga, and then there's Maya. So Kali Yuga is a general situation, the general environment and atmosphere that we're in, and Maya Devi is specific. Maya Devi will look at an individual and find the specific weak points, and she will attack. Yeah, she scans, sees where the weak points are, and we all have our own weak points, and then she will attack. Of course, she's Krishna's agent. She's no foreigner. She's Krishna's agent. Who is Maya Devi? Maya Devi is epitomized by Durga Devi, who's an expansion of Mahamaya. Yoga Maya. So Yogamaya expanded is Mahamaya or Durga Devi, who is the prison keeper of this material world. We said yesterday how this material world is a prison cell, without bars, without walls. We can walk out at any time. So she's a great prison keeper, because even without walls, she's keeping us here. How do you do that? Because the material energy just captures our consciousness once. Yudhishthira Maharaj is very tired. So he said to Bhima, no one should disturb me. I'm going to my room. I'm going to rest. Please keep guard. I cannot be disturbed. Bhima said yes. His elder brother. Vedic culture, there's a real respect for elders. Even an elder brother, even a couple of years older. Real respect. So Bhima stood guard. Then a Brahmana came. And he said, I have to see Yudhishthira Maharaj. And you know, these kings, they would be available. Actually, they would have times when anyone can come to the court and they can express themselves. They can ask questions, they can inquire about decisions made, about the situation in a particular environment, and so on and so forth. They had access to the ruler. But generally things were so peaceful, they were so well run that there weren't too many things to worry about. Anyway, so this Brahmana said, I really have to see Yudhishthira Maharaj. And Bhima said, no, not possible. He's resting. And he said, no, you don't understand. This is urgent. I really have to see Yudhishthira Maharaj. Something very, very important. And Bhima said, sorry, not possible. He said, okay, if I can't see Yudhishthira, then you have to help me. This is important. And Bhima said, okay, sure. I'll help you. So then the Brahmana said, there are certain things that I've seen in nature, in our environment, which are very, very disconcerting, very worrying, and I don't understand them, and I need an explanation. This is urgent. So Bhima said, okay, tell me. I mean, what could it be? So he said, okay. He said, number one, I saw someone. So there's a jug, and the jug is full. And there's 4 cups. And someone took the jug and poured the water into the cups, into the 4 cups. And then they poured the water in the cups, they filled the cups. They poured that water back into the jug. But now the jug was only half full. How does that make any sense? They didn't spill any. That's, poured the water in from the jug into the cups, 4 cups full. Then they poured the water back from the cups into the jug, but the jug is now only half full. Number 2, he saw that there was a fence, surrounding a field. And the fence suddenly, inconceivably, was just coming in. And the field was becoming smaller and smaller. The fence was closing in. How do you understand this? How do you explain this? Third thing he saw was that there was an individual and he was threading an elephant through the eye of a needle. And you know the story of Narayana and the cobbler? Yeah. Famous story. It's a little different. He was threading an elephant through the eye of a needle. The whole elephant went through the eye of the needle, but the tail got stuck. The tail got stuck. I couldn't understand. What's going on here? What is going on? And then the 4th thing he saw was that there was a huge boulder in the road. And it was stopping the traffic. Imagine if there's a huge boulder in the road here. The road is like a busy road. Huge boulder in the road. All the traffic was stopped. The boulder was stopping everything. Big, strong men came. Prabhu. Strong men, came to try and move the boulder out the road. But even 100 of them couldn't move the boulder. And then a sadhu came. I don't have a chadar here, but he had a chadar and he had a string coming from the chadar. And he came, and with that string, simply by the strength of that string, he removed a huge boulder. He was bemused. This Brahmana was bemused. He couldn't understand what was going on. So then Brahmana said to Bhima, I need you to explain what is happening here. Bhima said, okay, you've got to go see Yudhishthira. So then he went and saw Yudhishthira Maharaj. And of course Yudhishthira Maharaj has a very calm temperament. He saw the Brahmana and he spoke to him. And so the Brahmana half an hour later came out and he was very happy and pleased and he was about to walk away and Bhima said, hey, hold on. Did you get your answers? And the Brahmana said, yes, I got my answers. He said, but come on, you're not going to leave me in suspense. Tell me. Yeah, what was it? What did he say? What did Maharaj Yudhishthira say? So then the Brahmana explains to Bhima. Okay, the first thing. What was the first thing?
The jugs of water.
Jugs of water. Yudhishthira Maharaj said these are all symptoms of Kali Yuga. See, when Krishna was on the planet, Kali Yuga could not come. He was stopping the onslaught of Kali Yuga. Krishna Swadhama Bhagate Dharma Gayana Divisaha. When Krishna left, then Dharma and Gayana he took with him. Therefore, this material world, darkness shrouded this material world. But, second part of this verse, 1344. Krishna Swadhama Bhagate Dharma Gayana Divisaha. Kalau Nashta Dashamesha Puranarko Dulodita. That okay, that the world is shrouded by darkness, but the Bhagavatam will bring light. Like brilliant as the sun, Prabhupada says. The Bhagavatam will bring light to this Kali Yuga. So but Yudhishthira Maharaj explained that these are all symptoms of Kali Yuga. He said, what does this represent? You fill the jug, you fill the cups of water, and then you put the water back in from the cups, and the jug is now only half full. Yudhishthira Maharaj explained that this is a sign of the times. He says you give and you give and you give, but what do you get back? How do people reciprocate in this world? Half. If that. Gratitude in Sanskrit, gratitude means, the word gratitude is kritagya, and it literally means, made of two words, krita, gya. To know, krita means to do, and gya means to know. To know what someone has done for you. Literally, that is a definition of gratitude. To be conscious of what another person has done for you. Very important quality. But how much gratitude do we see in today's age? We see it going down and down and down. How grateful we should be to Srila Prabhupada. We should give our body, mind and words to his service. He gave us everything. He's given us real meaning in life. Parents, good parents, give so much. Unless you actually become a parent, you can't really understand how much the parents have sacrificed. And even then, the sacrifice of modern day parents and the sacrifice of our parents and then their parents is just on another level, generally speaking. Generally speaking. There's exceptions, of course. How much do parents give? I reflect back and think about how much my parents, my mother and father, how much they gave me, how much they sacrificed on a personal level to try and give me the best that they were able to give. So much sacrifice. And then I think about how much I'm repaying them. Okay, I'm trying to practice Krishna consciousness. And we understand that they get benefit. But to understand, to be conscious of how much another has done for you. Gratitude. So, this is Kali Yuga. Gratitude is declining. Number 2, what was the second symptom?
Fence around the line.
Fence coming in. The fence represents authority. The fence represents those who should be giving shelter to the praja, to the citizens, to the average person. And what the tendency is that rather than the authorities, rather than those who are in positions of power and responsibility, rather than them giving shelter, rather than them facilitating, a real leader will want his dependents to be better than him. That's a sign of a real leader. His goal is that these individuals who are under my care, they should be better than me. But rather the modern leader, so-called leader in today's age, their tendency is to exploit, to manipulate, to control, and to see how people can be used for their own ends. Bhagavatam 11th Canto describes that this is the nature of leaders in the modern age. In previous bygone ages, this kind of mood and behavior was unheard of and impossible to even conceive of. Leadership is such an important responsibility. Once there was a man, and he owned a company. And one day he drove into the company, and he had a brand spanking new Ferrari. This phrase, brand spanking new Ferrari. The latest model, shining. And he drives in, and all of the workers, they're watching. And they're like, wow, what a car. So they're all watching, and then he comes out of the car, and he sees all of the people who are all watching. And he says to them, if next year, if over the coming year, you all work twice as hard, and you all work twice as long, then next year, at this time, I'll be able to get the latest model of the Ferrari. It's just selfish. Selfish. This is the nature of leaders. So this is another symptom of Kali Yuga. Leaders exploit rather than facilitate. Number 3. What was the third thing? Someone else. The elephant through the eye of the needle, but the tail was stuck. What does this mean? Yudhishthira explained that in Kali Yuga, in this impending age, at that time it was impending, we're in the thick of it. I mean, I say we're in the thick of it, we're only 5,000 years in. 432,000 years. What's going to come? Gosh, I want to get out of here. Right? Doesn't it make you feel like I don't want to stay in this place, in this material world? Elephant goes through the eye of a needle, but the tail gets stuck. Yudhishthira explained is that the criminals will get away with murder in Kali Yuga. The big time criminals, they get through. Somehow they're just facilitated to engage in their nefarious activities. But the small time criminals, the small timers, they're the ones that get through. They're the ones that are prosecuted. I experience this all the time, we're doing book distribution. And you see all sorts of things going on in the streets. Drugs, alcohol, prostitutes, so many things going on in the world, on the average street in a city. But the police always pick on the poor little Hare Krishna. What's he trying to do? He's just trying to distribute a few books and collect a few donations, and the police always come. I mean, it depends where you are. In Hungary, actually, we have a really good relationship with the authorities. They don't touch us. We have permission to distribute all around the country, apart from in private areas. Private areas is the prerogative of the owner, but otherwise we can distribute anywhere. But in some places, I was in the Faroe Islands. Anyone heard of the Faroe Islands? You know Iceland, and you know Norway. In between the two, there's 19 islands that constitute the Faroe Islands. It belongs to Danish territory. And I went there to distribute books. I flew first from Hungary to Iceland, and then from there there's a 1-hour flight to the Faroe Islands. I spent maybe 2,500 euros on car hire, accommodation and flights. A little more, almost 3,000 euros for those things. And within 40 hours for a week in the Faroe Islands. And within 14 minutes I was arrested. They questioned me like anything, like I was a criminal. I'd made some transactions on a card machine, They reverse the transactions. They checked my hotel room. They checked my car. They confiscated all the books. They destroyed the card machines. But with one place where I put my foot down, you cannot destroy my Bhagavad Gitas. These are holy books, and if you do that, then there'll be trouble and a monk. And this is a line you cannot cross. So they kept them, and then they deported me. They kept me in prison for a night, and after 2 or 3 days, they deported me from the country. They gave me my books back. And so, you know, we get so many experiences, so many difficulties, and you're just trying to preach. There was Hitler's propaganda minister. His name was Goebbels. Yes, Joseph Goebbels. He said, he was famous for saying, if you want to tell a lie, so he's all about propaganda. If you want to tell a lie, tell a big lie. Don't tell a small lie, tell a big lie, because then people will think he wouldn't lie about that. Surely that must be true. Yeah, that's the nature, right? So people, psychology, the way they manipulate. So this is the nature of Kali Yuga, Yudhishthira Maharaj said. You thread an elephant through the eye of a needle, but the tail will get stuck. The small timers are the ones that get caught. The big guys, they stayed around doing whatever they like. And, you know, not too far away we see a prime example of that. Let's not talk about politics. It's being video. So, that's the third thing. And the fourth thing, what was the fourth thing? The boulder blocking the road, and no one could remove this boulder. And then the sadhu comes, and with a thread from his chadar, he removes this boulder. What does it represent? Yudhishthira Maharaj explained from the Bhagavatam this beautiful verse, Kale dosha nidhi rajan asti hiye ko mahan guna kirtana de krishnasya mukta sangha parampuche. This Kali Yuga is a sea of fools. Kale dosha nidhi. Dosha nidhi. This Kali Yuga is a sea of fools, nothing but problems. You look around, wherever you go, distant hills look green, you think, okay, you know, many Indians, when I'm in America, then I tell many Indians, they go to America, looking for greener pastures, looking for wealth and opulence and comfort, and sure, they get some of that. There's so many problems, so many problems. So Prabhu knows, yeah? He's been around, I guess, quite, you know, you've experienced. But there's one saving grace in this material world. And that is the thread of the chadar of the sadhu. What does it represent? Kirtana de Krishna, Krishna Kirtan, the holy names of the Lord. This is our one saving grace in this material world. This is the one thing that we can grab hold of and really take shelter of. This is the one thing which gives us protection from the ravages of the material energy. Otherwise, Maya Devi will have you for breakfast. So we really have to take shelter of the holy name. If there's one thing that we can really focus on in Krishna consciousness, and we've been given such a wide-ranging mission. Srila Prabhupada has given so many different opportunities to serve. And we have to dive into that service, and so many things we may be required to do. But of all of those things, we have to understand everything should feed into ultimately chanting the holy names of the Lord. This is the 64 Rupa Goswami. There's unlimited process in the devotional service. Rupa Goswami says there's 64. Most important. And then of those 64, he says 5. These are the 5 key limbs of devotion. And then of those 5, he says 3. And of those 3, he says 1. Golokera Prematana, Harinam Sankirtan, chanting the holy names of the Lord. Congregationally, Jiva Goswami says that the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord is the king of sadhanas. king of silence. So then kirtan, yes, but japa. You cannot do proper kirtan unless you know how to chant japa. Unless you can really chant the holy name of the Lord. So the most important thing is to be able to sit down and just hear the holy name. And that's when you know that you're progressing in Krishna consciousness. My spiritual master is Holy Shivaram Swami. He has a phrase, he has a motto. He says, I judge a man by his japa. So sometimes he comes into the temple room, and when we're chanting, and he just sits there and he's writing. He gets up early and chants, and then he's sitting there and he's writing, and then he's, from time to time he just, head up, looks around, scans, sees the devotees, and then back. You can tell a lot by how someone chants the holy name. How focused, how absorbed. Kurma Purana explains that there are various levels of meditation. The first is to be able to hear the holy name. That means there's nothing else going on in the mind, just to be able to hear the holy name for 12 seconds. 12 seconds. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Just to be able to hear the holy name. 2 mantras, approximately 12 seconds. Just to be able to hear the holy name, nothing else. No other noise. No planning for the rest of the day. No thinking about last night's conversations, this thing you have to take care of, shopping, conversations, deals, this, that, the other. Just hearing the holy name. So first stage, Kurma Purana says, is 12 seconds. Second stage, it says, is 12 times 12 seconds. How many seconds is that? 144, which is approximately minutes, 2.5 minutes. To be able to hear the holy name for 2.5 minutes, and just to be able to absorb. And in today's age of social media, of bing, 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 phone just constantly going on. I try to avoid groups. I try to avoid, I don't have Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever. I don't have any of those things. But I have WhatsApp. And that's enough of a distraction. Enough messaging and communication. My services mean I have to communicate with devotees often and in various parts of the world. And it's just, I wish I was practicing Krishna consciousness in the 1980s. Really. Before all of these phones and this over-communication and intense information age came about, life was so simple. Life was so simple. So we used to do a talk at universities called Life Was Much Simpler When Apples and Blackberries Were Just Fruits. This was maybe about 10 years ago when Blackberries were quite a thing, 15 years ago, everyone had a Blackberry. So life was much simpler when apples and blackberries were just fruits. So, modern technology, it's such a distraction. So just to be able to hear the holy name is such a thing. This is real commodity. This is the real wealth of a devotee. So, Kurma Purana, 12 times 12 seconds, 2.5 minutes is the second stage. And then Kurma Purana says samadhi means to be able to hear or meditate. And for us to be able to hear the holy name for 12 times 12 times 12 seconds, which is approximately 30 minutes, 2.5 times 12. To be able to hear the holy name for 30 minutes. Samadhi, absorption, focus. And then you can really experience Krishna. And this has to become our goal. First goal, 12 seconds. Second goal, 2.5 minutes. Third goal, 30 minutes. And maybe, Prabhupada said it took me 30 years to perfect my japa. Prabhupada said. And of course, he's speaking for us. He's instructing us that, okay, Rome wasn't built in a day. This is not a walk in the park. This requires some application. This requires some real energy, some focus. Study, endeavor. Just like we study and work so hard in so many material endeavors, in the same way the holy name requires some real absorption, some real focus. We have to figure out, how can I chant the holy names? How can I really figure out how to become absorbed in chanting Hare Krishna? And that's real wealth. And through that, we can really make some advancement in Krishna consciousness. 95%, I think Prabhupada said 95% of our advancement comes from chanting the holy names. So if that's the case, it really requires. In Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, they put out an advertisement. Anyone who wants to come to the mutt, chant 64 rounds a day, you can come. We'll give you 3 square meals and a place to sleep. So through that advertisement, Akinchana Krishna Prabhuji Maharaj came. He came. He just wanted to chant Hare Krishna. So for at least 8 hours a day, he would chant the holy name. He probably did more. So once he was apparently sick, so a doctor came and he got his stethoscope and he checks his heart. And what does he hear? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. His every atom, his every pore was exuding the holy name. So Hare Rama. So how do we get to that stage? We sing every morning. Taragapi Sunichina, Garodika Sunichina. Amani Namani Vena, Kirtaniya Sadhari. We want to chant the holy names constantly, incessantly. Then we have to offer all respects to others and expect no respect in return. We have to be humble like a blade of grass, and we have to be tolerant like a tree. Prabhupada explains that the root of prema is dainya. Dainya is not just humility, but dainya means utter humility. This is how it's translated there. Utter humility. So much to be said. I'm going to stop and see if there's any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms. Yes, please.
Small reflection of like 2 things come to mind with the 3 levels you described from the Kurma Puran. In this book Japa, I found that book very useful by Gurujan Prabhu. And he says like along the same lines, just to listen to one mantra at a time. And I found that to be like a good building block. Don't forget you chanted one mantra, concentrating on that. Just forget about that. Just concentrate on the next mantra, the next mantra. So I found that like in line with this 12 seconds. I know Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he mentions that at least one should aim for what he calls a grand 4 rounds of japa, which comes up to about 30 minutes for most people.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, Bhaktivinoda Thakur will talk about this. Srila Prabhupada, when he was working, of course, he would rise in the morning, he would chant 4 rounds. And then I think after breakfast he would chant 4 rounds, after lunch he would chant 4 rounds, in the evening he would chant 4 rounds. He'd break his 16 up like that. So he'd do 16 over the course of the day. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is described, he had such an intense schedule. He had so many, he wrote 100 books in his lifetime, imagine, 100 books. And alongside that he had 14 children. Alongside that he was a magistrate. He had the highest position that an Indian could have under the British Raj. Shishi Parama Karuna Gauramita Gaurachandra Ki. So he had so many duties and responsibilities. And it's described that he would also split his chanting over the course of the day. But somehow or another, yena tena prakarena, Mana Krishna Niveshya. Somehow or another, we have to fix the mind on Krishna. We have to mold our lives. Mold our lives in such a way that we're able to chant the holy names of the Lord with focus, with endeavor. It's a fight. I remember I was in Chalpari, sabbatical, and everyone, there was a small group of devotees and they all had tulsi. I was chanting yesterday on the ceiling, and Prabhu very kindly brought me Tulsi Marani, and I could chant with Tulsi Marani. That was very nice, very kind of him. So devotees would all have their Tulsi Marani, and a few devotees would come around and chant. And then sometimes when Maharaj was in Swarna Swami Maharaj was in town, then he would come, and he would sit in the middle of the temple room on a platform, and he would sit and chant with the devotees. But when he was chanting, the way he was chanting, it was like he was wrestling with a lion. So intense, moving his head and really trying. And I was just watching, it was like such a spectacle, spectacle, so like powerful. And I was reflecting that Maharaj didn't need to fight to chant, but he's showing us the example. He was showing the devotees the example that you really have to fight to be able to hear. The mind, Rupa Goswami described that the mind is like a drunk monkey. A drunk monkey, monkeys, if you go to Vrindavan, then you know about monkeys, right? I mean, they're getting more and more intelligent. I remember in the old days, monkeys used to come and they'd steal the glasses. If you're wearing glasses, then beware. The monkey would steal the glasses and jump onto the roof, the nearest building, and then wait. Sometimes they start chewing the frame. And then what do you got to do? You've got to get some fruity, right? These little mango drinks, or a banana, and then you trade your glasses. You throw them up the fruity, and then it will keep down the glasses. Or sometimes it just leaves the glasses there, and then runs off, and then you've got to climb up onto the roof and get your glasses. Nowadays, I've seen more recently, in the past few years, you throw it up the fruity, and it will take one, and it'll be holding the glasses in the other. Puts the glasses down, and I've seen monkeys do this. One more. It wants one more. Then you've got to give it another fruity, and it's got two. Then it leaves the glasses there, and then walks off with its stealings, with its swag. So they're intelligent, but these are drunk monkeys. Rupa Goswami says the mind is like a drunk monkey. A drunk monkey haunted by witches and ghosts. That's the nature of the mind, especially in this age of Kali Yuga. So it really requires some taming. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that one should beat the mind 100 times with a shoe in the morning and 100 times with a broom in the evening. You really have to beat the mind. It's not a walk in the park, and the nature is that, the thing is about consistency. Every day we're doing the same thing, it's the same mantra. Once we're doing Harinam in London, and it was an enthusiastic Harinam, and one guy joined in, and he got really enthusiastic. And we had a little placard with the mantra on, so he's reading the mantra and chanting the name. But this guy kind of knew it off by heart. And at the end, when we were parting, he was leaving, and we were going another way. And he said, "You guys are great, it's amazing, so enthusiastic, I love it." But he said, "Haven't you thought about getting a different mantra though? Like, we have the same mantra all the time, same words." It's the nature of a mantra, right? It's the repetition of the same thing. But because it's the same mantra, again and again and again, the nature of the mind is to kind of switch off. The nature of the mind is to wander away because it becomes repetitious. And anything that's repetitious, the mind kind of drifts away from. So we have to guard against this. We have to guard against the mechanical practice, mechanical devotional service. And one way of doing that is constantly reminding ourselves these 2 hours, or however long it takes, It's the most important 2 hours of my life. And how these 2 hours go, it affects the other 22 hours. It's preparation for the rest of the day. It's preparing the conscience to be in Krishna consciousness. And of course, as we said the other day, the other 22 hours dictate how we do during our 2 hours of japa. So they work in tandem, they go hand in hand. So we really have to. And you notice that when you chant well, when you chant the holy name with focus, in good consciousness, with real endeavor, then it gives so much protection from the material energy. It gives so much protection. So, then Maya Devi's held it there. In the first canto it's described how does it go, Vyasadeva, that Krishna comes, material energy there, but then Krishna comes, and then Vyasadeva is kind of protected, something like that. Basically, when Krishna is present, then we are protected from the material energy. And we really invite Krishna into our minds and hearts, and we chant all the names with focus. You want to say something?
That's okay. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Please.
So while you were speaking on Chantanya, I asked the question. One thing that surely stuck and really is so helpful. I was reading the little book by Nicola Maharaj book, and he was saying in the absence of spiritual activities, material energy takes over. Also, while listening to you, at the very end, what was running through my mind is the verse 944 Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord is saying, engage your mind always in dignity, become my devotee, offer obeisance to me and worship me, being completely absorbed in me, surely you come to me. And it's so very, just like to share that. I'm very grateful that was running through my mind, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Guru. Yeah, this is our process. Uta Shri Krishna Namadi Nambhavet Grayam Indriya Seho Mukti Jiva Do Swayameva Spurtiyata and Nishkena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchite, to engage the senses in the service of the controller of the senses, Rishikesh. And as we do that, Ambarish Raj's example, Savai Krishna Padara Vindayo, Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo, Vajamsi Vaikuntha Gunanu Varnane, Karo Hare Mandira Marjana Dishu, Shrutim Chakarachuta Sattva. And like that, one should engage the mind in meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. One should engage the sense of smell in smelling the flowers offered, or the aroma coming from the limbs of the Lord. One should engage the hands in washing the temple of the Lord. One should engage the ears in hearing the beautiful katha of the Lord. And like that, as we engage the mind and the senses in the service of the Lord, they become purified. The senses, the attraction towards the material reduces, and the attraction towards all things Krishna increases. Absolutely. Yeah. I thank everyone for your kind attention, presence, and I guess we have the festival today in the evening, 6 o'clock. And in the meantime, I guess devotees will be quite busy preparing and so on. At least some. Or I guess most of the devotees who are busy preparing are already busy preparing. Granth Rajshri Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Shri Parama Karuna Nitai Gaurachandra ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki, Isko Gayana ki jai, Gaur